my name is Ashish Kumar. I have secured a rank of 53 in the Civil Services Examination of 2019. I come from Darjeeling in West Bengal, and I am an economics graduate. However, as an optional, I decided to go for history. This is because I tried reading a few NCRTs, and I really found history very very interesting, and something that I felt I could read over a long stretch. I could read over hours, and this was what used to happen during my preparation. Whenever I was bored, I would simply pick up history and begin reading history itself. I also looked at the previous year questions and the syllabus, and especially in history, I believe there is a misconception that the syllabus is very vast and it cannot be completed. I believe history has a very specific syllabus. It even subparts are mentioned in the history syllabus. So if one does it smartly, one makes proper notes. History is very, it is a very good subject. It is very interesting, and you can definitely score very well. And other considerations and other benefits of history are that GS1, half of the paper is covered by history, be it the modern history part or the culture part. It helps in the prelims as well, in the ancient, medieval, which a lot of aspirants do not focus on. If you have history, you do not need to do much extra for them, and you already have them covered. And for the essay as well, you will get a lot of fresh examples. I have liberally used history in the essay. Whenever I did not get a proper example, I would just simply think of history, and I would get an example, be it Ashoka or Gandhiji, whom I have used liberally in the essay. Due to this, I took history after a lot of consideration, and accordingly I began my preparation for history optional. So for this, first what I did was that I downloaded the syllabus and stuck them on my walls. And the syllabus is very defined, and accordingly firstly I saw the sources, which sources will cover these parts of the syllabus well. And beyond that, I also looked at the previous year questions, and I looked at the previous year questions from 1990, so almost 30-year previous year questions. And whichever previous year questions I did not get proper material for them, I would look for them online, and try to make some notes on them. For example, I'll tell you, there was this year there was this question on Zainul Abidin. So I did not find proper material in any of the textbooks for this. So I searched the internet for Zainul Abidin, and I made a proper 1.5 to 2 page notes, and I could reproduce that in the exam. And I think the examiner must have really been impressed, because you do not get that in your standard books. So apart from the standard books, if you do not get a certain topic somewhere, you have to refer to the internet extensively for all the parts, which I have done extensively. And with regards to the specific pointers for preparation, firstly what you need to remember, there's another misconception, that history is simply remembering facts and figures, and you need to have a great memory for history, which is, I think, totally it does not hold true, as I myself do not have a great memory. But however, if you have good good analysis, if you can focus on seeing the change and continuity, and this is what you need to this is how you need to prepare for history. You need to prepare for it topic wise, syllabus wise, and also the section wise, society, polity, economy, and do not study it in silos. Let's say, for example, if I am studying about the Mauryan economy, I simply do not stop there. After studying the Mauryan economy, I also need to simultaneously look at the post-Mauryan economy, and I also need to look at the Gupta economy. This gives a kind of continuity, and then you can actually understand how the economy is developing. How, because history, I believe, is a subject of change and continuity. Certain elements continue, certain elements change, and if you can capture this and show this in your answers, the examiner will be really impressed. Coming to the sources I referred, for ancient there were two main sources. One was Upinder Singh, and the other was the IGNOU material, which has a really good coverage, and some parts you will only get in IGNOU. So I would recommend doing that as well, apart from Upinder Singh. For medieval India, my primary sources were the IGNOU, because it has very extensive coverage and covers a lot of the topics of the syllabus. Apart from that, I did Satish Chandra, and in Satish Chandra, I did the society and economy part, which I believe has been really well covered, and with great analysis, which may not be found in IGNOU as well. And thirdly, I also refer to J.L. Mehta. You do not have to read whole J.L. Mehta, but what you can do to smartly study the JL Mehta is, that you can, simply look at the footnotes or the things in the italics. There it will have, quotes of historians, quotes of the various travelers, be it Al-Baruni or historians like Toynbee, which will really give a something, fresh to your medieval answers. So, you do not need to read the whole JL Mehta, but, at least look at the historians or the various, travelers that they have mentioned, and make a, separate note out of them, and use them freely in your medieval answers. That will, really give a good impression to the examiner. For modern, I referred to 3 sources, but, be very selective. You do not have to read the whole book. Always see the previous year questions and the syllabus. So for pre 1857, I refer to B.L. Grover, which is an excellent book, and the historian quotes are given. Also make a note out of that, and you can use some parts of that in your answers. After that, I referred to the Shekhar Bandopadhyay, post 1857. It's a very good book, and I think it is the best book for the modern history. However, you may not understand it in the first go, as it can be a bit complicated, so it may need, at least I had to read it 2 or 3 times. You may be able to understand it earlier. However, I had a hard time understanding it initially. However, later, as I kept reading it, I got a good hold over that as well. And Bipin Chandra, refer to the chapters of the subaltern part, be it the peasant movement, the working class movement. Those chapters do from Bipin Chandra. You do not need to do the whole thing. And for post-independence, I also referred to Bipin Chandra itself, the India's post-independence part, and see the syllabus, and accordingly, make your own notes out of it. You do not need to read the whole book. That is very thick, and you simply cannot recall it before the exam. And for world history, what I did was I read this book called L. Mukherjee for the pre-World War I part. It is a decent book, and you will get a decent understanding of pre-World War I part. And I also referred only certain chapters, not all chapters, for the Ranjan Chakrabarti. Even that is for pre-World War I, and certain chapters like American Revolution, French Revolution, they are really well covered. It will supplement what you learned from L. Mukherjee, and L. Mukherjee is a very light read, so it should not be a problem. And post World War I, the best source is Norman Law. It has very extensively covered with proper, diverse viewpoints and analysis. And for world history, one more issue I faced is that certain topics, they are not covered in these books at all. For example, if I give you, there's this Bolivar, or the free trade movement, which did come in world history this time. The first time I think that topic has been asked. So for these topics, for each topic, you have to, which are not there in the book, you have to refer the internet. For example, I had made proper notes, be it of the Chartist movement, the free trade movement, which really helped me in history. And in history, if you compare the previous year questions, they are now asking questions from parts which haven't been asked. For example, the Zainul Abidin question, the free trade question. So whatever topics that not have been asked, you definitely need to have a 1.5 to 2 page notes on them. For example, Australia has yet not been asked. So I believe it may be asked next year. So you accordingly need to prepare that. And what I would suggest for history is that you need to have notes for everything. I had my self-made notes for ancient, medieval, modern, and world. And although initially it does take time, I used OneNote for making notes, and some notes, of course, offline also. But it really gives you an edge, and you can actually revise them before the exam, and which will definitely help you to score better. And with regards to answer writing I believe is very important in history, because you simply cannot write how you write a GS answer. History answer has to be different, and it must seem that you are writing like a historian. There is proper analysis. With regards to answer writing for history option, I believe it is very important. You simply cannot write how you write in GS, and there must be some difference. It must seem that there must be some similarity to how a historian writes, and whether there is proper analysis or not. For this, firstly, what I would recommend is that whatever previous year questions are there in history, you make your own answers for that, by referring to the various sources. You must have an answer for the previous year questions that have been asked in the past 30 years. and this is because a lot of questions repeat from history. Around 1/4 of the paper is a repetition of what has been asked in the past 30 years. So your first step, you need to do this. Secondly, you need to download the various topper copies from the various websites. Write the question that they are writing, and then compare what are they writing better, what mistakes are you making, and accordingly use this as analysis in order to improve your answer writing. And I would suggest write at least one question every day. It will help you a lot, and change only comes over time. Rather than writing 15 20 at one go, write one every day and compare it to toppers copies. Show it to a friend. Like I had a friend, Rohit, whom I used to show my history copies to, and I have learnt a lot from him, and I would get a second opinion regarding what I'm doing wrong, what I need to improve in my history writing. So I would suggest writing one answer basically every day. And what I would recommend in the answer is that try to substantiate your answers. For example, let's say that you are writing something on ancient. So if you are writing something and you are a history option student, you simply cannot just write this statement. There has to be an evidence of it. There has to be archaeological evidence or some historian saying it. You do not need to focus much on historians in ancient India, but in there the sources are very important. Be it the archaeological sources, or be it writers like Kautilya or the other writers that are there in ancient India. Doing this will substantiate your answer, and you will get better marks than average. For medieval India, your focus has to be on the historians as well as a lot of travelers that are there, and all this information you will get in the sources that I mentioned earlier, and you need to use them freely in your answers. For modern history, modern history is about perspectives. The more perspectives you write, and in this you need to focus on proper analysis as well as writing historians where you can. And you do not need to write too many historians. You do need to mention historians, especially in the questions where there are debates. For example, this time there was a question that was Quit India movement a spontaneous movement. So in this I did properly analyze it along with historians, because here the explicitly a debate has been asked. However, there is not a debate based question. For example, there was a 20 marker on Subhash Chandra Bose. So here I did not mention even one historian, because firstly I was not aware also, and this is not the demand of the question also. So you need to focus on what the question is asking and accordingly give substantiation, be it in the form of reasoning or any opinions of historians. And in world history also is about perspective. The wider you write in world history, the better marks you will get. And one more thing, I would suggest you to practice while history answer writing is, try to relate it to the contemporary events, and try to write that in the conclusion. Rest, the intro and body will be the same as the rest of the people. However, if you can give something innovative in your conclusion, that will really help you. To give an example. For example, if there is a question on Alauddin's market reforms, rather than writing in the conclusion that a standard conclusion like that this paved the way for consolidation of his empire and stuff like that, you can relate it to the current events. You can write how what I had thought of this, and I had written this in one of my tests that I used to practice at home. I had written that the similarities to Alauddin's market system can be seen in the public distribution system today, in the regulation of prices, the control of prices, the central market intelligence to ensure that the PDS dealers do not cheat the people. So I try to draw this parallel. I couldn't do this for many questions, however I did do this in a few questions and must have given a good impression. Another example I can give you is, let's say that there's a question on the emancipation of the blacks or the slaves during the American Revolution. So in this, in the conclusion, what I would try to do, I would try to mention the Black Lives Matter movement, the shootings by white supremacists in USA, and this I would try to link this and say that there's still a lot to be done, to basically realize the ideals of Abraham Lincoln as well as the founding fathers of America. So if you do this, this will give you a special edge. And regarding the facts and figures, of course they are important. However, your answer shouldn't be simply facts and figures. Reasoning and analysis should be the crux of your answer, and facts and figures should only be to support that reasoning. And you have to practice answer writing in this way, and this will actually help you, to score well in history and do well in history. And one more thing I would recommend is that keep your sources limited and make notes out of that. As I had done, I had made notes out of everything, and this really helped me revise during the history option. And lastly, I would like to also thank Piyush sir. His guidance has been very helpful for me throughout the exam. Whenever I had a doubt regarding history, he gave me the guidance every time. I could freely go and ask him. I could show him if I had certain problems in certain sections. He would help me. He would clear my concepts, and this was also played a very crucial role. In helping me not only get better conceptual clarity, but also get better marks in the civil services examination. With this, I would like to end this talk, and I would say that history is a very good option. It will really help you in all the papers, be it the GS and essay. It is a very interesting subject, and it will definitely increase your chances of selection. Thank you.